Okay, so today we are going to speak about The Farming of Bones, which is a novel. It is a postmodernist novel written by Edwidge Danticat, which retells the horrific event that took place in Dominican Republic in 1937. The story itself is based on a real event, however, it has a touch of fiction as well. Um, the story revolves around a tragic past, which was the Parsley Massacre, which marked the history of Haitians and Dominicans. As I have said, this is a postmodernist novel. And postmodernist, it's a form of literature that characterizes by the use of metafiction, unreliable narration, intertextuality, and it often tackles historical and political issues. The experimental style of literature, of postmodernist literature, started in the United States in the 1960s as writers decided to challenge authorities, and they started writing about political problems, and postmodernity is highly self-reflexive because of this reason. So Edwidge Danticat, she took the Parsley Massacre uh, as an event that she didn't want Haitians to forget. So that's why she based The Farming of Bones, she based the story of that novel on that massacre. Um, well, as I have already said, The Farming of Bones, it's a story based on the massacre. And concerning the Parsley Massacre, I want to give you a bit of context so that you have a clear idea or a clear vision. The Parsley Massacre was a mass killing that took place in October in 1937 against Haitians. Haitians who were living in Dominican Republic. Um, there was a dictatorship, Trujillo, Rafael Trujillo. He was a Dominican dictatorship, and he ordered the Dominican army to attack the Haitians. So the troops came from different areas of the country following the orders of Trujillo, and they killed thousands and thousands of Haitians. Um, it is said that there was this false propaganda around Haitians, that they were robbers, that you know, it was a false propaganda that the Dominican government tried to spread to justify the mass killing. However, it is said that Rafael Trujillo's real motive to carry out the massacre was to segregate both countries. He wanted to separate Haiti from Dominican Republic. So, in a period of 5 days, within the massacre, in a period of 5 days, um, it is said that 10,000 Haitians were killed, and by the end of the massacre, 35,000 Haitians were killed. And um, following the orders of Trujillo, he wanted the Haitians to be killed with using machete as the killing weapon. So not only Haitians were killed, but also they were killed as animals. And in the internet, you can actually find, when I was doing the research, you can actually find some pictures of how these people, the Haitians, were killed. They were brutally killed. Okay, so I'll move forward. So concerning Edwidge Danticat, she was born in January 1969. She is Haitian. She was born in Haiti. When she was 2 years old, her father moved to New York. Um, Father and her mother moved to New York, and she stayed with her brother in Haiti, and she was raised in Haiti by her aunt and uncle. So she feels Haiti as her homeland. At the age of um, at the age of 12, Danticat moved to New York to live with her parents in New York in a Haitian American neighborhood, and she started writing at the age of 9, and at the age of 12 she moved to New York, and she later on she went to college, and she in her recent interview she expressed that the first time she felt racism in United States was when she went to college, because she was raised in a Haitian neighborhood, and there was this sense of homeland and brotherhood and sisterhood inside the community. So she didn't felt racism until she was grown up. Um, yes, she currently right now she graduated. She has a PhD, and she has written several books. She is a novelist. As I said, she is a Haitian American novelist, and also she's a short story writer. Among her most well-known books, we have Breath, Eyes, Memory, which is a novel, and it was published in 1994. We have Crick Crack Stories, which was published in 1996. We have The Farming of Bones, this novel, which was published in 1998. We have Dew Breaker, which is a novel in stories. It was published in 2004. Brother, I'm Dying. It's a memoir, it's social criticism, which was written in 2007. And we have Claire of Sea Light, which is also a novel, and it was published in August 2013. So these are her most well-known books, but she has plenty of novels, and you can find a lot of interviews that she does on the internet, where she explains the motives and why she keeps writing. Um, so yeah. So concerning The Farming of Bones, um, so I'm going to start with the analysis. First of all, Amabel this year, she is the protagonist of the story, and she's also the narrator as well, the first person narrative. Annabelle narrates the story in past tense, and it also moves from present to past as she remembers and dreams of past events. Throughout the story, Annabelle is always remembering the past. Not on, and she also has a lot of dreams and a lot of nightmares, because she's all the time remembering how her parents passed away. She has all these tragic upbringing. The story focuses on the period of time leading to the massacre and how Amabel deals with the aftermath of the tragedy. So the story starts um, just a few days before the massacre, not a few days, but a few months ago before the massacre, and how Amabel deals with the aftermath. What happened during the massacre, and what happened after the massacre, and how she survives, and what happened with the other characters as well, how they try to move on from such a tragedy. So I will give you just a little bit of background, um, you can find on the internet a lot of really rough, I wouldn't say rough, but tough pictures um, about the Parsley Massacre. Well, this was a mass killing that took place in October 1937 against the Haitians who were living in Dominican Republic. Those Haitians who moved to Dominican Republic, they went there because of economic reasons. They went to the Dominican Republic to for work, to to gain economic stability, to earn a little bit of money. Um, so after Rafael Trujillo's orders, the army troops came from different areas of the country, and following the orders of the dictator, thousands of Haitians were killed using machetes as their killing weapon. Um, and it is important for you to picture the place. Um, the massacre took place in a river. So the people were killed by machetes. They were dismembered, and the bodies were laying on the floor next to the river. So this picture is really important because that is uh, the inspiration that Edwidge Danticat used. She uses the river as an inspiration because she wanted people to remember what happened in that river. It was not just a simple river, it was the river where the Parsley Massacre took place. Rafael Trujillo's motive to carry out such genocide was, as I said, to segregate both countries. As you can see in the map, there is one big island which is divided in two. So on one hand, we have the Dominican Republic, and on the other hand, we have the Haiti. So the idea of Rafael Trujillo was that he wanted to segregate both countries. He wanted to separate Haitians from Dominicans to establish more control over the island. And it is said that after days of killing, 35,000 Haitians were dead. Um, there is this notion that both countries were brothers or sisters, and as they grow up, they were separated. So the plot summary of the story, it was a very long book to read, so I just mentioned the main events. So the Farming of Bones tells the story of a young Haitian girl named Amabel Desir, who was orphaned by the age of 8. Her parents died in a flood. They drowned in the river. She worked after she was orphaned. She was saved by Don Ignacio, and She works for Don Ignacio and his daughter, Senora Valencia. Don Ignacio saved her and took her to his house, where Amabel works doing the housework. Amabel's life revolves around her boyfriend. She has a boyfriend who is called Sebastian Onias. And after an accident in which a cane worker died, the Haitians' distrust of the Dominican government increased. The tension began to increase. After hearing rumors about the cleansing of Haitians, Amabel and Sebastian attempted to escape and return to their homeland, Haiti. However, they are separated. During the massacre, they are separated. Amabel and Sebastian's friend Yves escaped the massacre and reached the safety of Haiti. After nearly losing their lives, they managed to survive the massacre. They were injured. They were terribly injured. They almost died. Somehow they they survived the tragedy. Amabel keeps searching for her lover. Finally, Sebastian's mother tells Amabel that he has died during the massacre. So she goes back to live with Eves. However, she clings to the past. Um, yeah, she goes back to live with Eves, and they both try to move on and to live a peaceful life. However, Amabel, she keeps going back to the memories she had with Sebastian, the memories she had with her parents. She's all the time clinging to the past. So for me, after I read the story, I feel that the main theme of the story is the importance of remembering the past. Most characters in the story are unable to move on after the tragedy. They keep retelling and remembering what happened to them. Um, that is the case of Amabel. That is the case of Sebastian. That is the case of Don Ignacio. All of them are all the time remembering past events and how their lives used to be and how they would like their life to be like that again. So they go back to the past by remembering. They there is also this idea of dreams and nightmares throughout the story. Amabel, Sebastian, Eve, and Don Ignacio cannot escape the truth of their nightmares. They dream because they find comfort and escape reality. Um, there is this notion of dreams and nightmares throughout the story, and most Haitians dreamed a lot because they wanted to escape the harsh reality of their lives. They were even though they went to Dominican Republic to work to to gain money, they still were treated as slaves. So they had to go through a lot of painful situations and experiences. And somehow they try to dream their life off, like they try to dream and find comfort in those dreams. And at the same time, there are nightmares, the nightmares for all the tragedy that happened in their life and they cannot forget. So the past comes back in the form of nightmares. There is also a lot of racism, loss, and perseverance. For me, the theme of racism is reflected in the tension and discrimination between the two nations that are increasing. People like Amabel and Sebastian are not seen as equivalent to people like Don Ignacio or Senora Valencia. That's another thing that I wanted to point it out. There are many passages throughout the story where you can see that Amabel and Sebastian are not on the same category of people. They are on a lower class, even though they are close and they were they grew up as a family member. Uh, they still treat Amabel on on a lower category, let's say. So that is also racism. They felt that the Dominicans were, in a way, superior to the Haitians. There is also the theme of loss because Amabel experiences loss at a young age when her parents drown in the river. Years later, she loses her lover in the hands of the army. The death of her beloved ones made her a stronger person. She represents the Haitians who lost their families in the massacre. There are thousands of Haitians families um, who lost their family members in the massacre, and they still managed to move on. And but they lost their jobs. They lost most of them lost their jobs, their lives, um, their houses. They had to, as Amabel and Sebastian, they had to flee with nothing. She didn't have nothing, and she had to escape. Otherwise, she would have been killed. So she loses everything. However, she manages to start again. That's why I feel there is a theme of perseverance in the story. I feel that Amabel is the embodiment of resilience and perseverance. Despite being an orphan in a foreign country, she manages to survive. She keeps looking. She also keeps looking for Sebastian against all the odds, and she represents the Haitians' strength during that period of dark history. She's a very perseverant person. Since a very young age, she had no parents. She had nothing. However, she manages to survive. She manages to work. She has a boyfriend. uh, Things somehow worked for her at the beginning, and then she loses Sebastian, and even though she feels that he might have died, she keeps looking for him despite all the odds. And when she finds Sebastian's mother and she tells Amabel that Sebastian has died, she feels incredibly sad, but at the same time she she manages to move on. She wants to not forget the past. She doesn't want to forget the past. The past. She wants to remember the past, but at the same time, she wants to uh, move on and live their own life, which I feel is very important to mention. I think that was the idea of Edwidge Danticat when she wrote the story. Moreover, the symbols that I found when I was reading the story, basically, the Massacre River is the place where thousands of Haitians were killed, and it symbolizes the attempt to segregate two nations by using force and violence. Before the Massacre River, Haitians and Dominicans, they had a good relationship among the two nations. Um, However, after the Massacre River, there are still some, the relationship is not as it used to be in the past. The sugar cane, it's a symbol of oppression. I feel that it's a symbol of oppression because Haitians, they worked with the cane all day. However, they could not eat or taste sugarcane. It was prohibited. So they were supposed to work with sugarcane all day. It was an incredibly dangerous job, and they were there all day, but they couldn't try, they couldn't eat, they couldn't taste the sugarcane. It was prohibited. So, in a way, I feel that is a symbol of oppression. What things they could do and what things they could not do. And also the twins, Senora Valencia, she had twins, and I feel that the twins represent segregation. Segregation because one of the twins has darker skin, has darker skin than the other. Therefore, people will treat them differently, despite they are brothers and sisters. They were born together, but eventually they will separate. So that's um, the idea of what happened with Haitians and Dominicans. They were brothers and sisters who eventually they separated. They separate. And the same thing will happen with the twins because one of the twins has a darker skin, and Senora Valencia, she's afraid that perhaps uh, the baby with the darker skin will be treated or will be confused as Haitian. And she's afraid of that because she doesn't have a Haitian daughter. Her daughter is Dominican, so she's a bit afraid of that. So it shows also, as I said, it's represent segregation and also a little bit of racism as well. So the main characters, we have Amabel Desir, the protagonist of the story. She's a Haitian domestic worker living in the Dominican Republic in the house of Don Diego. Amabel is dreamy and prone to fantasy, often relying on her imagination to escape from her difficult reality. That is what all of Haitians did. They escaped reality through dreams. We also have Sebastian Onius. Is a migrant worker from Haiti. He is Amabel's lover. Sebastian, he lost a parent to a natural disaster. His father was killed in a hurricane, which prompted him to leave Haiti for new opportunities in the Dominican Republic. As I said before, most of the Haitians that were living in Dominican Republic, they went there because of opportunities. Um, and Yves is a friend of Sebastian and he escapes the Dominican Republic with Amabel. Once Yves and Amabel reach Haiti, Yves' family takes Amabel in as a guest and new family member. Yves' life in Haiti is prosperous. He becomes uh, he's an accomplished farmer. Senora Valencia, who is married to Senor Pico, is Amabel's boss in the Dominican Republic. Sorry, Senora Valencia. She is the daughter of Don Ignacio. She and Amabel grew up together. They used to play together when they were young. Despite their close, nearly familial relationship, Senora Valencia is a wealthy Dominican woman with, with family ties to the government, whereas Amabel is actively targeted for her Haitian identity. And then we have Senor Pico. Senor Pico, he is married to Senora Valencia. Pico is very loyal to Rafael Trujillo, the Generalissimo, who is the dictatorship of the Dominican Republic. Senor Pico treats his workers cruelly and obediently carries out governmental orders to terrorize and harm Haitian migrants. It is important to mention that Senor Pico in the story he kills a person. He kills an innocent cane worker, and he doesn't care. He doesn't feel any type of remorse. He feels nothing after killing him, and he doesn't take responsibility of his actions. He kills someone and he doesn't even care nor apologize. He is a very evil character, and I feel that he represents the Dominican dictatorship. He represents that. Then we have Don Ignacio, who is also known as Papi. He is Senora Valencia's father and an exiled patriot from Spain. Don Ignacio, he is from Spain. He listens to the radio for news about Spain's civil war each night and is seemingly unaware of the increasing tensions in his current homeland. He feels hunted by the men he killed during the Spanish War. As Don Ignacio, he feels hunted by the men he killed during the Spanish War. The same as, I would say, the same as Pico, both of them have killed people due to nationalism. When you are so proud of your country and at the same time you are obsessed with your country, you feel superior than others. And in this case, Don Ignacio, he also killed people in the name of Spain, the same as Pico, who killed people in the names of Dominican Republic. Although Don Ignacio, he feels he feels remorse. He is a character who feels ashamed of his past. He feels hunted, as he said, by all the people he killed, which is different with Pico. Pico has no remorse at all. He's a very evil character, in my opinion. And then we have Juana. Juana is a housemaid in Señoras Valencia's home and has worked for Don Ignacio for many years. Juana took care of multiple generations of Don Ignacio's family. Juana's relationship with Don Ignacio's family illustrates how feelings of belonging can supersede one's individuality. In the story, and I didn't mention that on the slides because it was too much information, but in the story, Juana's husband, he wants to have their own family with Juana. He wants to have children, and they sacrifice themselves. They don't fulfill that desire of becoming parents because of their jobs, because um, they want to give their lives to their bosses. In the case of Juana, she treats Senora Valencia's children as their own. She cries when they were born. Um, and the same thing happens with Juana's husband. They have this sense of putting their own desires, their own needs aside uh, just to fulfill what the bosses want. What the bosses want. We also have Don Javier. He's a physician for Senora Valencia, and he is unsympathetic to the Dominican government's violent agenda and sympathetic to Haitian workers and migrants. In fact, he is the one who warns Amabels of the impending massacre. Dr. Javier's disapproval of the Dominican government's racist regimes shows how some characters transcend identity. He is he is educated. He has in the community he is respected in the community. He is educated. However, he doesn't agree with the regime. He doesn't like the way Dominicans treat the Haitians. Even though he is a Dominican as well, he doesn't agree with that. He disapproves that type of treatment. And in a way, and throughout the story, he treats Amabel as a person. He doesn't treat her in a lower category. He doesn't treat her as less of a human being. Um, I feel he is the embodiment of goodness in the story. He is the character who transcends, who he's the type of character who doesn't care about social status, economic status, gender status. He is all the time trying to help others. And he is the one who also helps Amabel in many ways. And at the end, the government, the Dominican government, discovered that he was helping Haitians escape, and he is killed. And he is killed. He is killed, and even though he was a good person, he is killed because he was against the government, and those kind of things happened a lot during a dictatorship, which is a shame. So for me, as a conclusion to the story, I feel that Edwidge Danticat wanted to perpetuate Haitian history in the farming of bones. There is an interview in which she confessed that she used to travel back and forth from Haiti to United States She used to travel a lot. And in one of those times when she came back to Haiti, she went to the the Massacre River, and she saw people swimming, hanging out in the river. And then she realized that those people who were in the river, they didn't know what happened in that river decades ago. And that's why she wanted to perpetuate the Haitians' history. She wanted to write about what happened in the river, what happened, what type of tragedy happened in that place, so that people don't forget. And that was the inspiration she had for the Farming of Bones. That was the moment in which she decided that she was going to write about the Parsley Massacre and how many Haitians were killed and why they were killed, how they were killed, and who gave the order to kill them. So that's when she decided to do that. It was at that moment. So it was to perpetuate the Haitians' history so that no one's forget what happened. She wants Haitians to remember what has happened to them so that those events do not happen twice. And I feel this is really, really important to point out about Edwidge Danticat. She is a postmodernist writer, and as I have mentioned already, she wants to write about she wants to write about things that about important and controversial issues. She wants to challenge authority. She wants to write about political issues, about injustice, about racism. As in the Farming of Bones, there is injustice from the beginning of the story till the very end. Um, so I feel that it is really important for her to read something that it to read about something that it's important. And in a way, I I feel that I completely agree with her, and I think that we Argentinians, if I bring that to our country, we Argentinians, we need to start reading about our own history, because sometimes we just complain about the things that are happening in our country, and maybe are things that already happened in the past, but it's because we are not familiar with our history, with our roots. We allowed those bad things to happen again and again and again. So I think that it is like this story, and the writer itself, she encourages people, not only Haitians, but people from different countries to start start reading about their own history, to get familiar with your own history, what happened in your own country, in your family, what is the history that we have. And once we know our own history, then we can, and we have the obligation to retell this story. We have the obligation to pass our history to our sons and our daughters. But it is important, it is our duty and our responsibility to never forget our history. And I think that it's it is really important. It's a really important message, and goes beyond countries and beyond cultures. And finally, I don't know if I can do that, but I wanted to show you a very small, very short video of Edwidge Danticat.